Greetings from Temecula, California, on what is baseball history at its finest. The Los Angeles Dodgers have just punched their ticket to the World Series for the third time in 5 years, and standing at the center of it all, quite literally, is the man of the hour, Shohei Ohtani. Tonight, Ohtani delivered a performance for the ages with the bat in his hands. He went 3 for 3, launching 3 home runs that not only electrified Dodger Stadium, but shook the very foundations of the National League. And if that weren't enough, on the mound, Ohtani was untouchable. 6 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, only 2 hits allowed, and an astonishing 10 strikeouts. To say he dominated would be an understatement. He commanded every pitch, every swing, every at-bat with the precision of a master and the flair of a superstar. You could feel the moment shift every time Ohtani stepped to the plate. His first home run, a majestic blast that left the park like a comet streaking into the Los Angeles night. The second, a line drive that left even the best fielders shaking their heads. And the third, well, it was a statement. This is Shohei Ohtani, and tonight he owns the postseason, but we haven't even touched on his pitching. Fastballs that sizzled, sliders that confused, curveballs that were poetry in motion. 10 strikeouts in 6 innings, and not a single run allowed. And as the final out was recorded, Dodger fans erupted. A team that has seen ups and downs, drama and triumph now celebrates a journey that continues into the Fall Classic. And at the center of it all is the hero, the incomparable Shohei Ohtani. Raises his arms, the bat, the ball, the mound. Tonight he conquered it all. 3 home runs, 10 strikeouts, 6 innings of perfection. The Dodgers are on their way to the World Series once again. Shohei Ohtani, well, he reminds us why baseball remains a game of magic, skill, and heart. For Ohtani, for the Dodgers, for every fan in Dodger Stadium, and the millions watching around the world, tonight will be remembered forever. Dodgers have won the NLCS and are going to the World Series for the third time in 5 years. Welcome to the Ryder Report. I am Ryder Bullock on this busy Friday night. We just talked about the Los Angeles Dodgers sweeping the Milwaukee Brewers with a 5-1 win. Earlier, though, it was the Blue Jays and the Mariners, where Suarez powered the Seattle Mariners to a 6-2 comeback win over the Toronto Blue Jays in Game 5 of the ALCS, blasting a go-ahead grand slam after Cal Riley's game-tying homer in a 5-run 8th inning. Suarez also had a solo shot earlier, accounting for 2 of Seattle's 3 home runs. The victory gave the Mariners a 3-2 series lead, their first home win of the series, and puts them 1 win away from their first ever World Series appearance. Game 6 shifts back to Toronto on Sunday night. From baseball to college football, and how do you take a typical big October Saturday and make it even better? The answer is you make every big game a toss-up. And Week 8 delivers a lineup that is so off the charts. I mean, every game is going to flip the playoff race on its head. An SEC tripleheader, Notre Dame and USC under the lights, and the Holy War in Provo. Let's break it down. We'll start with the game of the week. Number 5, Ole Miss at number 9, Georgia. Between the hedges, the Rebels and Bulldogs meet again, and the ghosts of last year's blowout still linger. Ole Miss stunned Georgia 28-10 a season ago, dominating the trenches, but Georgia's back, bruised, and still dangerous. Kirby Smart's dogs have made a habit of falling behind, then clawing back, but they can't keep tempting fate. Ole Miss's quarterback has this up-tempo attack. They'll test Georgia's secondary early and often. The Rebels haven't won in Athens since 1996. Saturday's the chance to rewrite a chapter and maybe punch a ticket to Atlanta. The third Saturday in October, number 11 Tennessee at number 6 Alabama. Cigars ready, right? These two might light up the scoreboard before the post-game celebration even starts. Alabama's living on the edge. 2 straight wins with less than a 30% post-game win expectancy. Translation, they're surviving, not thriving, but when Ty Simpson makes a clutch throw on 3rd and long, the tide still rolls. Tennessee's explosive offense, Deshaun Bishop on the ground, Mike Matthews over the top, will test that Bama front 7. But if Simpson stays steady and the Tide D controls the line, Alabama can keep its playoff hopes intact. Call it what it is. Must-see football in Tuscaloosa. Number 10, LSU, and number 17, Vanderbilt, a sentence we don't say often. LSU at ranked Vanderbilt with postseason stakes, right? Brian Kelly's defense is finally the backbone, holding opponents to single digits in 5 of 6 games. Vanderbilt's offense, though, sneaky good, right? Second in the nation in the success rate, led by Diego Pava and a pair of running backs who average nearly 8 yards per carry. This one's an SEC grinder with huge implications. The loser leaves the playoff chase behind. Number 20 USC and number 13 Notre Dame, one of college football's crown jewels, and maybe the last time we see it for a while. Soak it in. USC's Jaden Mafiava, right? Nation's leader in total QBR. Notre Dame's CJ Collar, cool as ice on 3rd and long. Both are young, both are electric, and both can light up a scoreboard. The Irish have tightened the screws defensively after early stumbles, while USC's offense keeps humming. 191 yards on offense behind a battered but brilliant line. Expect fireworks. I think the first one to 35 wins that one in South Bend. Number 7, Texas Tech at Arizona. Texas Tech keeps churning out defensive dominance, right? Top 5 nationally in points allowed per drive. ASU, I hate to say it, but they're a little inconsistent. They'll get quarterback Sam Levitt back, but they're still giving up touchdowns in bunches. If the Red Raiders front 7 brings heat like usual, this one could get ugly fast in Tempe. And finally, Saturday night in Provo, number 23, Utah, number 5, BYU, the Holy War. BYU freshman Bear Batchmeyer has been fearless, but Utah's defense is a different animal, fast, physical, and mean. Since that loss to Texas Tech, the Utes have outscored opponents 90-24. BYU's defense bends more every week, and against Utah's precision, that's a dangerous trend. The Holy War, under the lights, playoff dreams on the line. You couldn't script it better. So here we are, 6 games, everyone with them. Playoff implications. Saturday's not just another week. It's a referendum on who's for real. October Chaos. It's officially here. Week 8, Saturday, all day. And with that, here are my Week 8 college football picks. I like LSU to defeat Vanderbilt. Georgia Tech on the road defeats the Duke Blue Devils. Houston at home defeats Arizona. TCU wins against Baylor at home. Oklahoma on the road against South Carolina. Georgia wins against Ole Miss. James Madison defeats Old Dominion. Iowa defeats Penn State. Missouri wins on the road against Auburn. And I like BYU to win the Holy War and remain undefeated. Week 7 in the National Football League. The leagues are changing, the storylines are heating up, and we've hit that point in the season where pretenders start fading and contenders start flexing. Here are the games that I will be watching. Commanders taking on the Cowboys. Will Jaden Daniels bounce back and lead Washington to a win, or will Dak Prescott continue his MVP caliber run? Both teams are reeling from second losses in Week 6 and desperately need a win to stay in playoff contention. Prescott's been lights out, 10 touchdowns, 0 picks in his last 3, but the Cowboys are just 1-1-1 in that stretch. Meanwhile, Daniels is showing flashes of brilliance, but faces a brutal upcoming schedule. Keep an eye on George Pickens, who forced Washington's last year who forced and tortured Washington last year with 91 yards and a score. He forced Washington to flex last year. Anyway, Eagles taking on the Vikings, two teams who made the playoffs last season, now sitting at a combined 7-4 and looking shaky. Jalen Hurts is averaging under 200 passing yards per game, and Philly's offense is sputtering. Minnesota isn't much better, but Carson Wentz gets the start in a revenge game with J.J. McCarthy still sidelined. Can either team reassert itself as a true NFC contender? Saints taking on the Bears. Spencer Rattler's interception rate is historically low, just 0.49%, but Chicago's ball hawking defense might change that. The Bears have 8 picks already and are riding high after a buzzer beater win over Washington with a soft schedule ahead. Chicago could flip last year's 5-12 record into a playoff push. Panthers, Jets, Carolina is struggling. Beginning of the year with Bryce Young, but now they've won 3 straight. The Jets are still searching for their first win despite defensive-minded head coach Aaron Glenn. New York has just 1 takeaway all season. The Panthers are young, fast, and finally finding rhythm, but can the Jets capitalize on their vulnerability? Arizona taking on the Packers. Arizona's dropped 4 straight by a combined 9 points. Heartbreak City. Green Bay's defense is elite against the run and the pass, but oddly lacking in takeaways. With Kyler Murray questionable and top running backs out, the Cards will lean heavily on Josh Stewart, who's been a force with 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Micah Parsons, meanwhile, is hoping to shake off his October slump. Indianapolis taking on the Los Angeles Chargers, and this one might be the most underrated matchup of Week 7. 2 AFC contenders with firepower on both sides of the ball and a little bit of history between them. The Colts have looked like a team with something to prove. Shane Steichen's club has ripped off 5 teams in 6 games, their best start since 2009, and they've done it behind a pushing ground game. And the NFL's top-scoring offense, Jonathan Taylor, is the league's most consistent weapon right now. 603 yards, 7 touchdowns, and more broken hearts than missed tackles. The Chargers, meanwhile, are starting to find balance again. Vittle's breakout last week, 124 yards, 18 carries, gave LA the ground punch it's been missing. Justin Herbert remains as dangerous as ever when protected, and that'll be the key. Indy's pass rush, led by Latu, has to get home early and often. The Colts haven't beaten an LA team on the road since 1986, and they've dropped 5 straight in Los Angeles. And if you're playing NFL Fantasy, here's my NFL Fantasy tip of the week. Start Jonathan Taylor. The Chargers defense has given up 153.7 yards per game on the ground over the last 3. Sunday Night Football, Atlanta taking on the San Francisco 49ers. 2 of the league's most complete backs headline this one. Robinson and McCaffrey, and it feels like a generational passing of the torch. Robinson leads the league with 822 total yards, averaging 160 scrimmage yards per game. McCaffrey's calling him inspiring, and that's saying something. The Niners get a major boost with George Kittle returning after a 5-game absence, while Brock Purdy, toe, remains sidelined. Mac Jones starts 3-1 as the fill-in. The bigger concern for San Francisco is on defense, where Tatum Bethune steps in for all-injured pro Fred Warner. This one could turn into a duel of big plays in time of possession. Monday night, Tampa Bay taking on Detroit. Detroit hasn't lost back-to-back regular season games since 2022, 50 straight without consecutive defeats, the longest active streak in the league. That's toughness, and it will be tested by a Tampa Bay team that just won its 5th one-score game of the season. Both starting quarterbacks were number 1 overall. Picks traded away by their original franchises. Jared Goff with the Rams and Baker Mayfield with the Browns. Each has found a second act. The Lions will be thin in the secondary. 5 DBs on IR, and Brian Branch suspended, while Tampa's D-line is surging with 6 sacks last week and pressure coming from everywhere. Mike Evans could return, giving Mayfield his full arsenal again. If the Lions want to keep that streak alive, it starts up front, and it may end with how well they handle Vita Vea. Monday late game, Houston Texans taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle's been road warriors, 3-0, but oddly flat at home, just 1-2. Lumen Field used to be a fortress now. We talked about that Monday on NFL Hot Topics, and this is just another stop. Pete McDonald wants to flip that script. C.J. Stroud and the Texans are coming off a bye and a statement win over Baltimore. Stroud was named AFC Offensive Player of the Week, and Woody Marks has emerged as a reliable two-way back alongside Nick Chubb. Seattle's defense answers some critics in Jacksonville, 7 sacks and 3 straight fourth-quarter stops, but they'll be tested by Stroud's quick reads and Jalen Peteri's versatile defense. The Seahawks' balance on offense, Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith-Njigba, could make the difference if they avoid the early mistakes that have plagued them at home. And with that, here is my Week 7 NFL picks. I like the Rams to beat the Jaguars. Give me the Bears to beat the Saints. The Browns to beat the Dolphins. Patriots on the road against Tennessee. The Chiefs beat the Raiders at home. The Eagles win on the road against the Vikings. Panthers win their 4th straight against the winless Jets. The Giants win their 3rd straight against the Broncos. The Colts finally win in Los Angeles. The Commanders win on the road against the Cowboys. Packers get their 4th win of the year. 49ers win at home. Buccaneers on the road. Seattle at home. From what will be a great, fun weekend in football to the NBA, where the Washington Wizards are trying to sell hope. But hope doesn't win you basketball games. The Wizards went 18-64 last season. That's right. 18 wins. And somehow that's an improvement from 15 the year before. You can't make this stuff up. Now listen, the rebuilding process, I get it. It's not pretty. You draft kids, you get your teeth kicked in for a few years, and you pray somebody turns into a star. That's where Washington is. But right now, It's like watching a team stuck in the mud. You can see the wheels spin, but the car ain't moving. They've got 10, count them, 10 former first-round picks. You think that sounds impressive, right? But if you're a first-round pick who ends up on the Wizards, it probably means it didn't go so great somewhere else. Now, there are some positives, and I'll give credit where credit is due. Trey Johnson, 6th overall pick. The kid can flat out play. Alex Sarr, he's got tools, big frame, good instincts, made all-rookie first team. Bud Carrington, a solid piece. These are young guys who can actually develop into something if they're coached right. Brian Keefe, year 3. That's the tricky part, right? He's got to walk that tightrope. Do you give minutes to the vets, or do you just hand the keys to the kids? Because if I'm being honest, CJ McCollum, 34 years old, great leader, good locker room guy, but he's not changing your win total. He's a mentor at this point. Hard to pick an X factor on this team, but if I had to, Alex Sarr, he's the X factor. The kid's defense is way ahead of his offense, but you can see it. You can see the flashes. He averaged 13 a game last year, 16 after the break. If he takes a leap, maybe you win, I don't know, 25 games instead of 18, but it's still a long road. You brought in Cam Whitmore. You got Marvin Bagley. You got a bunch of former prospects who are all looking for second chances. That's not a core. It's a project. I mean, it is. It's a project. A basketball science project almost. And so when Wizard fans ask me, Ryder, when are we going to be good again? I'll be honest. Not soon. You can't microwave a rebuild. You need time, stability, a true star, and a front office that knows how to build around them. But I'll say this. If Trey Johnson and Alex Sarr turn into something real, if McCollum gives them some leadership, and if they stop trying to patch holes with spare parts, maybe then you can talk about turning a corner. Until then, buckle up. It's another long winter in Washington. That's my take. The Wizards are still getting caught up. They've got the kids. They've got the attitude, but they don't have the wins yet. NBA season tips off Tuesday, and we will have the Hardwood Report coming your way on Tuesday night, and then a doubleheader of basketball that tips off with the Thunder hosting the Rockets. They'll get their rings, the banners, all of that glorious stuff, and then a doubleheader. The night game, the Lakers hosting the Warriors. And then, of course, the Ryder Report will follow that game. Here's what's trending in sports. Louisville stuns number 2 Miami. Louisville pulled off a major upset over number 20 Miami, 24-21, marking Jeff Brom's 4th career top 5 upset. Quarterback Carson Beck struggled for the Hurricanes, throwing 4 interceptions, while Louisville's defense forced key turnovers to secure the win. Louisville 21 first downs, 367 total yards, 248 passing, 119 rushing, 2 turnovers. Miami 15 first downs, 334 total yards, 271 passing, 63 rushing, 4 turnovers. Louisville dominated the ground game, 3.8 yards per rush versus 2.6, and converted on 4th down, while Miami faltered with 4 interceptions. Turnovers and timely plays were decisive in Louisville's upset victory. Joel Embiid made his first appearance in nearly 8 months, starting for the Philadelphia 76ers in their preseason finale against the Minnesota Timberwolves. In just 19 minutes, he nearly recorded a triple-double with 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists, and 3 steals, helping Philadelphia win 126-110. Coach Nick Nurse limited Embiid's minutes as planned, and he did not play in the fourth quarter. Embiid's return comes after a season-ending knee surgery in April and a previously injured plagued 24-25 season where he played only 19 games. The Sixers opened the regular season against Boston on Wednesday. Embiid emphasized his resilience, saying, "I've had so many injuries. The only thing I've always told myself is, you can't give up." Capitals cruised past the Wild 5-1. Alex Ovechkin scored his first goal of the season and added an assist, and the Washington Capitals defeated the Minnesota Wild 5-1, marking their 4th straight win. Dylan Storm had 2 goals, including the game's opener, assisted by Ovechkin, and Tom Wilson added a late power play goal. Logan Thompson allowed only 1 goal to ex-Cap Marcus Johansson, while Alexei Portes quickly answered to give Washington a 2-1 lead. Capitals dominated 45-15 in shots and successfully killed off Minnesota's top-ranked power play. Ovechkin's third-period goal brought his career total to 898 during a roaring ovation from the home crowd. That's what's trending in sports. Here is tonight's final thought. Picture this. The golden helmets of Notre Dame, shimmering in the Indiana sun. The cardinal and gold of Southern California, glinting in that Pacific light. 2 proud programs separated by 2,000 miles, and yet forever entwined in college football immortality. It wasn't just a rivalry. No, this was the rivalry that nationalized the sport. When these two titans first met in the roaring 1920s, the country took notice. Until then, college football's fiercest fights were regional. Harvard and Yale, Auburn and Georgia, Michigan and Ohio State. But Notre Dame and USC, they put America on the same field. They boarded trains that took days to cross the continent. They played in front of enormous crowds from South Bend to the Coliseum. The nation watched, spellbound. It was the beginning of something bigger than a game. It was a spectacle. Now, as we approach their 96th meeting, Notre Dame holds the edge, 52 wins to USC's 38, with 5 ties. The balance of power has swung like a pendulum. Through time, the Irish dominated the 40s, USC ruled the 70s, and each era has produced moments that define generations. Let's revisit the moments that made the legends. Knute Rockne was gone in 1931, his spirit hovering over South Bend. The Irish led by 14 in the fourth, but here came the men of Troy, Gus Shaver, Orville Moeller, and finally Johnny Baker, the hero with a last-second field goal. A stunned Notre Dame crowd watched as USC celebrated. When they returned to Los Angeles, 100,000 people lined the streets. They were kings and national champions. 1947, Johnny Lujack, Bob Livingston, Notre Dame's finest hour. They dismantled USC 38-7 en route to yet another national crown. The Irish were untouchable, a machine of precision and pride. 1964, Ara Parsingen arrived in South Bend like a savior. John McKay was already building an empire in Los Angeles. Notre Dame led by 17 at the half, but the Trojans, led by a young Craig Fertig, fought back. In the dying seconds, Rod Sherman made the catch heard round the Coliseum. USC 20, Notre Dame 17. The Irish fell, and the Trojans rose again. 1974. The comeback. Notre Dame led 24-0, but Anthony Davis, the name still echoes, brought USC back from the brink. 100-yard kickoff return. Not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns in a quarter. A 55-0 run. Final score 55-24. The Coliseum roared. It was, as I might say, the most dramatic turnaround these eyes have ever seen. 1977. Dan Devine's Irish, clad in green, yes, green, emerged from a Trojan horse to face USC. Theatrics? Perhaps. Effective? Absolutely. Montana, McAfee, and a defense that swarmed. Notre Dame 49, USC 19. They would not lose again that year. National champions once more. 1988, number 1 versus number 2, Lou Holtz's disciplined Irish against Larry Smith's powerful Trojans. Tony Rice, Stan Smagla, Mark Green. The Irish outclassed USC 27-10. A month later, they were champions of the nation. 2005. Pete Carroll's juggernaut, Leinart, Bush, and the Bush Push, a play for the ages, controversial, unforgettable, quintessential USC. Reggie Bush pushing Lionheart across the line with seconds remaining. The tush push before the tush push was cool. The Trojans survived 35-31 in one of the greatest games ever played, second to USC in Texas later that year. And now here we are, nearly a century later, and the rivalry stands on uncertain ground. For the first time since 1926, there may be no more games scheduled. The forces of conference realignment, television contracts, and playoff politics threaten to end what generations have cherished. Marcus Freeman says he wants it to continue. Lincoln Riley, too, with a grin, says he does. Hell yeah, I want to play the game, he said today at a pregame press conference. But talk is cheap. This, my friend, is a rivalry that must endure. Because when Notre Dame and USC met, and meet tomorrow, it's more than a football game. It's tradition. It's history. It's the sound of the band, the clash of cultures, the echo of pads colliding under a gray Midwestern sky or a bright California sun. This is college football. This is Notre Dame and the University of Southern California. And that only I, Ryder Bullock, can say is the story, the spectacle, the rivalry that built a nation of fans. That'll do it for me on this Friday night. Till next time, Ryder Bullock reporting. Thank you for your time, and thank you for letting me share mine.